If you've ever asked the universe for some kind of sign and got it clear as day, what was it and how did it go? I was walking what would have been a 4-hour drive, and I was walking. I straight up begged for a car to stop and pick me up, and literally seconds later a woman stopped who was traveling all the way to where I was heading. Same town 4 hours away. What are those odds? Similar thing happened to me. A guy picked me up when I was hitchhiking and was going to drop me off at the train station so I could catch a coach to my hometown 4 hours away. As we were chatting, we realized we were heading to the same town. He was a delivery driver doing drop-offs along the way. He offered for me to stay with him in the car. I helped him map out his deliveries, and he bought me a pup feed and dropped me off outside my parents' place and came in for a cuppa and met them. Nice. That's a good hitchhiking story. It can be dangerous too though. I don't recommend for just anybody. I gave a guy a ride in the city once. It was after midnight. He had me drop him off in a rural area I didn't know, so he ends up directing me to a closed down grocery store in the middle of nowhere. No houses anywhere within sight this place. I pulled into a gas station directly in front of the grocery store. The gas station was closed, but I knew they had cameras rolling all the time, and it was lit like daytime. He was insisting that I drop him off behind it. Even tried to bribe me with some CDs and crap he had, said we could hang out for a bit. Now look, maybe this guy just lonely and wanted company. Maybe he didn't want to walk from the gas station. Maybe he wanted to do something crazy. I don't know, but the environment had me very uneasy, and I followed my gut on that one. The more insistent he got about me driving around the back of the grocery store, the more insistent I became that I wasn't going to, and the ride was over right here. And nothing really came of it. He hopped out and thanked me for the ride. Scared the hell out of me. I'm not superstitious at all, but my uncle is. When my nan passed, he went to see a fortune teller who told him that anytime our family sees white feathers around, that's Nan's way of showing us that she's there. I thought it was a load of bullshit and forgot about it. A few years later I was at a music festival. Everything was coated in dirt and dust being churned up by thousands of people's feet. Even the air was so thick with dust it was making it hard to see and breathe. I was on the edges of the mosh pit when I started to have my first panic attack. I'd never had one before, didn't know what was happening to me, and I was terrified. I felt like I was being crushed, and like I was the only person in the world at the same time. I remember desperately thinking back, quote, I don't want to be alone. I don't want to be here alone. I crouched down in the middle of the dirty dusty crowd, and when I opened my eyes there was a single white feather on the ground right between my feet. It was perfectly white, no dirt, not stepped on or anything in a mosh pit. I stared at the feather until I could get my breathing under control and get out of there, and I still have that feather. Edit. Thank you for the award, kind stranger. For anyone asking, the festival was southbound in Western Australia. Sadly it's no longer running. Your nan was moshing with you. Did you tell your uncle about your experience? Be pretty fucking mad if he didn't, in fairness. I asked if I should bother sending a text to my abusive ex. My phone responded by discharging all of its electricity through the charger port and refusing to turn back on. Edit. I feel as though I should clarify this, since there's been a bit of confusion. I'm a dude. The abuser was my ex-girlfriend. So, yeah, sadly that shit happens to guys too. But I was lucky to have supportive friends and family that helped me to get the hell away from her, and now I know what signs to look for and what lines don't get crossed. Actually just got out of the healthiest relationship of my life, and though I'm quite sad about it ending, at least I know now how to find a good person to be vulnerable with. Good phone. The FBI agent spying on you came in clutch. See, sometimes they could be good guys too. I was in the depths of despair. I had lost my great job, had to travel 2 hours every day with heavy tools each way to a temporary job I was doing. Sitting on the bus, thinking my world was over, and it all kind of got to me all at once, and I began to tear up, not wanting to bawl my eyes out in public. I held it in. So I asked for anything that could show me that life wasn't worthless. A lady I didn't see must have how bad I was, or maybe it was just coincidence, but just after I cried out in my head, I heard the words "everything is going to be okay." It saved my life. Edit. I had no idea that this would affect you all so much. Sometimes it might be dark and a small spark starts a fire. Sometimes you're the small spark. Be the change you want to see in the world. Thank you for the awards too. I can now give awards to others. Similar story. Stuck in a horrific job, eating myself to death at McDonald's. I was having a particularly shitty day and my boss had screamed at me and the other technicians over something that she, the boss, had fucked up. I must have been looking extra miserable because this little old lady comes in. She notices me sitting at a table alone and smiles. She simply says, "Hey, don't let M win." It cut to my core. How could she know my fight? It's like she saw right through my defenses and nailed my fucking situation. A little while later she was leaving with her food and she smiled again and said, "Have a nice day." And I smiled back and told her, "Thank you, you too." So that's been my mantra ever since. Don't let M win. It's simple but it got me out of that shitty situation. This wasn't really asking for a sign, but I was going through a lot and in a really shitty and dark place, like the kind of place I honestly wasn't sure I'd survive. I was teetering on the edge of despair and genuinely going down the path towards doing something insanely drastic. I basically just asked the universe for help one day while in the middle of another crying episode, and I had this strange, sunny feeling kind of leak into the darkness I was harboring inside of me. The next day, by chance, I met my group of friends on a video game I played regularly at the time. They lived in an entirely different city and had entirely different lives from me, but we all just clicked. It took a month or two for me to settle into that friendship and understand that they were gonna stick around, and they've been my best friends for 3 years now. Some of my best memories are from that first summer that I knew them. I genuinely don't think I would have survived that time in my life had I not met them. I was feeling incredibly alone, and I was trying to come to terms with a lot of things all at once. I'm infinitely grateful for them, and I can't help but think that the universe was listening that day when, as a last-ditch effort, I asked it for help. All my life, whenever I went to the beach I had wanted to find an intact sand dollar. I had found lots of pieces, but never a whole one. When I was in my mid-30s, I went with a group of friends to the coast. I was walking alone along the beach and the moonlight close to midnight. I was feeling very sorry for myself in the dark and really lonely, even though I was with my friends that weekend. I had just started thinking the thought, wouldn't it be a great sign right now to know that I'm loved if I finally found a sand dollar? I had barely formed the thought when I looked down, and right at my feet was an intact sand dollar. Universe told your insecurities, I'm gonna pay you one sand dollar to fuck off. The universe was pulling a Ricky. Way she goes, boys. Way she fucking does. First Reddit award on a Trailer Park Boys reference. Thanks you greasy bastard. I really don't like my job, and I've been daydreaming about what I could do. I just needed a place to be able to do it. The next day I get offered to house sit for a couple years in this big Japanese house that has a storefront in the front. There's a perfect space to do what I would want to do. I would live rent free and be able to save up to buy my own business visa here. I wouldn't need to work in this job anymore. Make sure there is no one in the basement. Edit. Yes, I know it's in Korea, but I guess it could happen in Japan too. You never know.